Hello, 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 and welcome to the Cheap Seats, another weekly episode of the Cheap Seats. My name is Mpho and Dean, and I've got Dean with me. It's a North London mixed bag
Yeah.
of conversation that's going to be happening today. But remember, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitter, we're live on Facebook. If you're new to the channel and everything else, please do follow us on those platforms, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video if you like it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to build out something here down here south in South Africa, so that'll be greatly appreciated. Got Dean here. Dean, how have you been? There hasn't been a lot of Spurs. It's been international week. How have
So
you
that's
been?
that's why it's been great. No Spurs means happy Dean at the moment. So yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. Obviously having a break from football is bittersweet because at least you don't have to suffer any heartbreak, but also I don't understand what people do if they don't watch sport. That's the weirdest thing for me during these international breaks. Like there's no club football, there's no Champions League, there's no anything. So like, what do you watch horse racing? Like obviously there's international football, but no one cares about that. Even England fans, like, oh, I'm not really interested in playing Andorra. But yeah, it's been good, and this weekend is going to be interesting. Another good weekend of games and some fascinating
Well, not
outcomes,
for
I'm sure.
Manchester. Well, not for Manchester United because they might find themselves in a bit of a black hole. But we'll talk about that a little bit
We'll talk
later.
about that.
Right
We'll talk
now, a
about that.
team that was black and white that has been trying to be sold for the past 5 years, actually a lot longer than that because Mike Ashley's been there for
Yeah,
a very long time,
feels like forever. Yeah.
has now been sold, and Newcastle are now the richest club in the world. That's insane. But anyway, let's talk about that. Newcastle was sold for £300 million. That's double what Mike Ashley was offered a few years back where he held off. Now they find themselves in a world where they could try replicate the City model. Everyone's talking City, Dean, but I kind of was like, wait, hold up. This hasn't worked all the time. And I found a club that had the richest owners in the world that time, also in that Man City era, but did not become successful. That was QPR in 2011. QPR were bought by Lakshmi Mittal, who was the fifth most richest man in the world, and they thought it would bring a lot more. And obviously that board at the time had Benny Eccleston and Flavio Briatore to also help them there, but it never worked. All we got was Adel Taarabt, and it just didn't work out. Is it then? Will Newcastle somehow become the next super team, challenge for the title, or Newcastle fans just need to be a little bit calm because it could be another Mike Ashley?
Well, I think if you have a look at those Newcastle fans, I think they happy just the fact that Mark Ashley's gone. So it's more a case of at least someone's out the door rather than them becoming the world's richest club. So I think for them, the bigger thing is that he's gone. And obviously what he's done at the club and things like that, I can't say that I'm the most clued up person on Newcastle, but it's been one of those tales that have been coming. You listen to Newcastle fans that, they've had grumbles across many years. And I mean, they were relegated like not that long ago. I think it was the 15-16 season, that season when Leicester won. They were relegated. So, those kind of things for a team like Newcastle, who have had a history of being successful, obviously it was very long ago. There's still a lot of those fans that expect the club to be there. Newcastle is a city that, thrives on football. You look at St. James's Park, that is probably like the biggest spectacle or the biggest attraction in Newcastle in terms of the entire city. So in terms of footballing prowess, I think Newcastle demand a lot. And I think that's why when the news came out, you saw the scenes of all the fans outside, having a party, because now they all of a sudden have gone from Callum Wilson to Haaland and Harry Kane as potential transfer targets. So I'm happy for them. I think they, if it was Spurs or even if it was Arsenal, you and I would be sitting here going, yeah, I'm happy. I don't care what it means for what the takeover happened, how it happened, who they are. It just means you can play in a league that you would not otherwise be able to. So for sure, they're happy. Whether or not it's going to work out, we have to wait and see. But if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be excited.
So what I'm impressed by, obviously, they're bought by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, and Amanda Staveley is the new CEO. She's actually spoken to the fans, which Mike actually does not do. So it's a step in the right direction. Now, Dean, let's talk. They've got all this
She's
money.
scary looking, though. She's very scary looking, so fair enough.
Look, for some people, they might like it. For others, it might be like, ooh, Cruella de Vil, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Black and white. Okay, but they won't go to like spots or anything, but that's another story. Obviously, the Saudi Public Investment Fund has this massive kitty. It's supposed to go to infrastructure, I'm assuming, or investments. So the only way they can grow this investment into like a Manchester United-esque big behemoth of a club is to invest in the world's biggest names. What we saw with City was they paid lots of money for guys who were either their careers were going a little bit left or their careers were ending a little bit, and they paid these big salaries to lure even young, promising players who didn't care about tradition, which is probably going to hurt Manchester United because a lot of their targets are now going to chase money for those black and white stripes. Who is their first? Because right now we're looking at Newcastle at the bottom of the league. They haven't won a game. My first question was when this happened was, are they even going to get out of relegation? So, Dean, what do they need to do in January? Because January is the only window they have to kind of not devalue this investment. The moment you get relegated, it's over. It's over. What do they need to do to get themselves out? Who are the 2-3 players they need to look at to get themselves out?
I think before they even look at players, I think Steve Bruce is the one person that is obviously under fire. He's obviously under fire, and I think rightly so. I think if you've got a massive backing, you need to look for a coach that is going to be able to bring together even middle-class players, which if you have a look at that Newcastle squad, look, there's no one in there that I would die to have at my club. Maybe St. Maximin would probably be the only one, and I think that's the name that comes to mind for a lot of people. But I don't think that's a squad that's going to challenge for a title by itself anyway, which I don't think anyone's under the illusion. But I think the first thing to do is to get a proper coaching squad in there. And obviously some of the names that are being thrown out are a little bit far-fetched. Like, I don't think Antonio Conte is going to walk into Newcastle and, start coaching John Joe Shelby and Jamal Lassalle. And, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think if I was a Newcastle fan, I would hope that would be the first thing that they would look at, which, by the way it looks, I think Steve Bruce is still going to give his pre-match conference. I think it's on Friday. So we'll see how that goes. But I think if you have a look at that squad, the big thing is midfield for me, 100%. That's the first place any team should invest.
Look, I'm with you that the squad needs an overhaul and Steve Bruce needs a boost. The way I see it is, yes, Steve Bruce is a problem, but he's not my biggest issue right now. Steve Bruce can get the team out of relegation if you give him the better players. I look at that team. Right back is good. I'm okay with Jamal Lewis. I think he's okay. I just need a center back to partner Jamal Lascelles for now. I've got Joe Willock in that midfield. I've got San Maximum, and I've also got Callum Wilson. So if you can get Callum Wilson fit, you have some sort of a core of players that you can then add old experienced guys around that would be wanting to leave 6 months before the end of their contracts. I actually would sell Granit Xhaka to them if I'm Arsenal quite now.
I would sell Dele Alli to them.
Exactly. Guys who have Premier League experience, who can get a final pay. Well, Xhaka's 29. It's not a final payday, but he can get paid a lot of money to go to Newcastle. And guys like that to kind of elevate. So for me, that's where I see it. They need another center back. Matt Ritchie on the left. They'll figure it out, but they need to strengthen that spine, that core. Because if they get that, they get that right. And so it's I don't know where they're going to find another center back because everyone's looking for center backs. They can't find them. I'm hearing Nathan Ake. I'd also
before
even
that.
throw money at an Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's not playing at Liverpool, sitting on the bench. I'd be like, look, dude, come over. Come and play in this team. You elevate the status of this team and you make them competitive to kind of stave off relegation. Then I would say after that, go literally start talking to Mourinho now. Tell him to stink up the joint in Rome, to be hated by the people of Rome, and for him to come through. And with the checkbook that you can promise him in June next year, you can then overhaul this squad. Because I don't think there's any, if the Saudi Public Investment Fund and Amanda Staveley want to do something, they need a manager who knows English football and also knows how to win, and he knows how to do those. It's just that at Spurs, he kind of lost his mojo. He's a little bit behind, but for a guy to stabilize the club and get them mid-table, looking for UEFA Conference League type of levels of football, Mourinho's your guy. It's a match made in heaven because there's money to buy players also, and so it's England because Mourinho loves being in the spotlight. It just brings a lot of traffic and a lot of eyes and a lot of people into Newcastle, which is what Newcastle fans want. They want to be relevant. You can't go get Antonio Conte, who, yes, he won with Chelsea, but they're not gonna win a title the next 2 years. That's the thing. So for me, that's how I'd look at it. But what about the younger coaches, the younger, more flamboyant coaches? We're hearing Brendan Rodgers. We're not hearing Graham Potter or Eddie Howe, but wouldn't you go that route and be like, okay, let's try go youngsters. Let's try bring in the Haalands of the world. Let's try bring in lure. Okay, I don't think they'll be able to lure Mbappe because Mbappe wants to play Madrid. But they could go that route. They could go, let's go young. QPR tried this. They tried to go young. They tried to build from inside, not throw a lot of money at the squad. They threw money in the wrong places and it kind of fell. But in this situation, I'm looking at maybe try get somebody who's going to be there for 10 years, like a David Moyes type of manager, to be like, you're the guy for 10 years and we're going to keep giving you money to rebuild the squad as you go along.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter kind of predicting Newcastle's lineup next year. And you've got Mbappe there, you've got Kante there, you've got,
Harry Kane, and I think that's possible.
I think Harry Kane is possible, and I think if, like you say, a Mourinho goes to Newcastle, I think a Kane would go. But I also saw a counter argument where Kane is 28. He's not looking to invest in a club to maybe win 3-4 trophies in 5 years' time. He wants to win trophies now. So the Kane argument kind of falls a little bit flat there. But I do, and this is the thing, you hope that for longevity, you hope that Newcastle and these Saudi Arabia owners, that they don't just have a little bit of a flash in the pan approach to this like rebuild. You hope that they do invest in obviously youth where they can, but also experience where it's needed. And I think exactly what you said there. I think there's a couple players in the Premier League which have experience and would probably look to maybe kickstart or rejuvenate their careers at a likes of Newcastle. And I think Dele, Zaka is probably some of the names that are being thrown around. I think Antonio Martial's one, Jesse Lingard, a couple of those guys where they can go there and they're not playing at the moment anyway, or they're not playing well at the moment, so they don't mind if they go to a club that has potential over the next couple of years. I think coaching wise though, I think that's where they might struggle. I thought immediately, if you're looking for a young coach, you're looking at like Eddie Howe, one of those guys that could do something. But then again, you start thinking, well, does the richest club in the world get Eddie Howe, former Bournemouth manager, as their coach? You need someone that can do something or has done something already and is still young. And I think Potter would probably be the first name that comes to mind in that case if you're looking for Premier League experience. But look, it's one of those situations where we're not going to know how it's going to pan out until we actually see their first move. I think once we see their first move, we'll be like, okay, they're going to go completely 100% target the top of the top, or they're going to look to do a little bit of a slower rebuild and 2, 3, 4 years from now be in City's position at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. There's obviously a lot of noise about the next month or two, as well as January, and next summer. But I think Newcastle fans, the key here is that you've got a solution. You just need to be patient with the solution now. So don't expect your squad to be turned around in 12 months' time. It's not going to happen. So obviously the rest of the Premier League are going to fall behind now, and there's going to be a new top team which you're going to have to compete against, which is bad news for you and me and Paul, because Spurs and Arsenal cannot compete money-wise with those guys.
I wouldn't lie to you. I kind of felt like now there's another, like, it's two things. They're going to compete for the players you want, because we're currently in that same market that France, Spain and Italy B markets type of vibe, not in that A market. And then on top of that, when you're gonna face them, it's not a guaranteed 3-pointer. So you're like, oh, come on. But look, they did say 10 years until they want to see if they're gonna win win a title. So that's something that needs to look out for. I'd say they must just be a little bit hasty. Yes, we know Steve Bruce will be out. Give him this season, unless if the wheels just literally fall apart. They haven't won a game. But so many other teams in that bottom half are just all mixed up. So
the thing is, they don't have an easy run. That's the problem as well. They play Spurs this weekend, which obviously they could probably win their first game. But then they've got Palace, Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford, Arsenal after that. So up until the end of November, I wouldn't say they have easy games that you can kind of go, cool, Steve Bruce can kind of pull it together. So it's going to be tough for them anyway. So whether he lasts or whether he doesn't, Spurs are playing Newcastle at St. James this weekend. So that crowd is going to be
rocking.
Absolutely rocking. So
home dogs, a home underdog. Look at them. Exactly. Oh, because you guys are hosting, Spurs Stadium is hosting another NFL game. Okay, yeah. So that's
we also after that NFL money. We've got another business plan that we're trying to get into.
There's a side business. Whenever Spurs play away, there's an NFL team coming in. Next topic here, Dean, that's an interesting one, is the Ole vote of confidence. The Manchester United board last week gave Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a vote of confidence, even after a run of some really not so promising games. The loss to Aston Villa didn't look that great. The game against Everton was just horrible. And they had questions around why he would bench Cristiano Ronaldo. Some people say rotation because Cristiano's 37, but Cristiano is playing like he's still 30. But they've got a run of games now coming up that are pretty tough. If you look at what they have, they've got Leicester, Atalanta, Liverpool, Tottenham, Atalanta, and City up until the next international break. I sit there going, that vote of confidence was to kind of give Ole a kick up the backside, because we've seen the moment a coach gets a vote of confidence, the next international break, they're most likely on the hot seat and out. And yes, the only thing that's saving Ole right now is that from a statistical perspective, the man is probably United's most successful coach right now in this period, up until obviously if you consider how everybody started in the first however many games. On top of that, he's only 2 points away from number one, sitting in fourth. So it's not that bad. That Champions League one looks a little bit awkward, but a couple of wins could help them through. But I look at these Premier League games: Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, and City. How many points do Manchester United does Ole need to get to kind of kill the noise? Because it could just be noise, but it could also be factual.
And my thing with Ole is we had the same discussion last year around this period as well, where he got beat 6-1 at Old Trafford versus Spurs, and United were on the rocks, and it was kind of a question of when he was losing his job rather than if he's losing his job. And then he's one of those managers that it's almost like he does best when his back's against the wall. It's like that's when he becomes a person that knows how to pull a team together, can figure out the best way to play, and can really get things going. So I think that's what a lot of United fans are kind of hanging on to, of kind of saying, well, last season it was just as bad, if not worse, and look what he managed to go and do. So I think that's what they're hanging on to. I think the bigger problem is that was last season. And what Ole's gone and done in the transfer window is what you think would have addressed the problems from last season. And obviously we know the midfield was the one area that wasn't addressed, but bringing the Ronaldo, Varane, and Sancho, those were the areas where United were like, cool, here we are, we're going to win the league. This is now our season, Ole's at the wheel. And I think this is now the problem where the run of games that they had previously are the reason why it feels a lot worse than, like you say, it is, because they're only 2 points off the top. They should be winning those games. And I think that's more of the problem. That game against West Ham where they did win, I mean, it was that last-minute penalty that
Mark Noble,
Mark Noble, came on and missed, or De Gea saved. So they got lucky there with a 3 points. The Aston Villa game, they were complete shambles. Same with Everton. They scored early, and then Townsend comes in and gets the equalizer. And from there, they just never looked like they could come back and win that game. So those were the games that you would expect them to win. And of that, they scraped through, like in the West Ham game, or they didn't get through. So I think that's the problem. And now is the real test of United and what they're going to do. Obviously, this is where you now expect Ole to do well because of what he's done in the past. But I think if they don't start performing, if they've got I think it's 4 games up until the next international break, which is the toughest run of games that United probably will have. Like you said, got Leicester, which are looking a bit shaky at the moment, but they've got Liverpool, Spurs, and City in that period. And if they don't get at least, I want to say 7 points from those 4 games, then Olive, there's no ways that United fans can actually back him. I don't think they'll beat Liverpool. I don't think they'll beat City. They'll probably beat Spurs, and they'll probably beat Leicester. I think.
But
what?
No, because I was going to tell you that there's a piece of information that probably might change your thinking. Maguire's out.
Maguire's out, and Varane.
Yeah, so now you've got Lindelof, Bailly, or Phil Jones somehow playing through that. I know Luke Shaw came back towards the back end of that window, but how does he manage? Because compared to last year, he had Maguire for the entire season. Maguire's now not going to be there. Varane's not going to be there. It's the guys that United fans don't trust the most. Bailly, Lindelof, and then you're probably going to get some sort of a McFred in front of them. That, for me, is a black hole. That square that they will occupy in the field is a place where now even teams like Leicester can now and come through.
Yeah, Vardy's going to cause them havoc on the weekend. Absolute havoc, because that defense is going to be a shambles. So Spurs, look, I can never back Spurs at the moment, but hopefully Harry Kane can do something against them, and Son can. But then you look at the other game of City and Liverpool, and if Varane's out for a while, I think it was. Maguire's trying to get back, so maybe he'll be back by then. But then exactly that, in that defense and the midfield and defense, which is where they were lacking last season, is then back to the same players that you had last season anyway. So they're probably not going to do as well. So from a United fan perspective, I wouldn't be happy, but can someone else come in and do a better job than Ole at the moment? I don't know. I don't think so. But it just goes to show that, again, and we said it when they bought Ronaldo, they didn't address all the problems that they had. They're going to have to try and address it in January, or else it's just going to be the same thing of this massive highs where they do really well, and it feels like the good old days, and then there's going to be lows like this where it's going to continue for even longer, and they're just not going to get back to what United fans or where United fans think they should be. And I think that is more, when I listen to United fans, that's where they're worried the most about, is that they agree that maybe Ole isn't the best man for the job, but who else? And I think that's where it kind of falls flat.
But this is the biggest club in the world. They can get any coach they want.
Like, will Antonio Conte walk in there? That's the thing. That's the question.
He can.
But will he, though? He can, but will he? That's the problem. Would he walk into a United?
He could. They've got the players. Like, look, I think a Conte with the squad, it lacks a bit because he likes to play three at the back. But if you've got Varane, you've got Maguire, you've got Luke Shaw, you can actually let Luke Shaw tuck in at left centre back. You have Alex Tellers out on the right. You bring that guy from Norwich back, Brandon, whatever his name is, and you play three at the back. You then play a midfield 2 or midfield 3, depending on how. That enables Pogba to play centrally with some sort of a McFred, and then you have a front line of Ronaldo, Bruno, and whoever you think is the fastest United winger, and that's it. We close out the game and we move. And I wouldn't mind doing that.
But if it's that simple, Ole should do that though.
He doesn't like to play through at the back.
He doesn't like to do it, but it's not working at the moment. So that's why do something. And like you saw last season when it was around this period where he then started playing Cavani more up front. And that's when Cavani started doing well and United started getting traction because he tried to do something different and then it clicked. So hopefully he does. Look, you should never bench Ronaldo. You can say the man's 36. You can say the man you don't bench the guy ever. And even the comments, I mean, there's obviously like Sir Alex Ferguson, people saw him mumble saying he should never be benched. You don't bench your best players, which 100% is correct because he might not be playing well. Yeah, but even if he's not playing well, it's Ronaldo. You know what I mean? It's you still leave him on, and I think that's where, and that's why I made a comment of is it a stupid move or is it a big move? And it turned out to be a stupid move by Ole. He shouldn't have done it. And he tried to, look, whatever his reasoning is, no one will know. But the man needs to know who his best players are. And again, he doesn't have a squad depth like City do or Chelsea do to be able to waver from that. He needs to find his 11. He probably has in his 11 in his head. He knows who it is. All of us know who the top 11 is. If they stay fit, those are the guys that play. If they don't, you've got a bit of a shambles at the back, especially now with Varane and Maguire injured. So who do you play? You've got Lindelof and who they're going to play? Bailly, I would imagine. Yes. I don't even know.
Or Phil Jones. Phil Jones.
Or Phil Jones.
So you could see a Phil Jones side too.
Then poor McTominay is going to be running his legs off. Fred's going to give the ball away, and it's one of those games, but you have to see it through.
They'll play the man they keep on putting in cotton wool. Their former signing from Chelsea. What's his name? That defensive midfielder. What's his? Matic at centre back.
Oh, man.
That could work.
That man's ready to have grandchildren at the moment, man. That guy shouldn't be playing on that pitch anymore.
Yeah, but I think the question goes down to, can another coach of United's caliber, because they're a very big club, they're gargantuan, do a better job with this squad of players? And I think it's a yes. But we also got to give, it's one of those situations where this is Ole's first big coaching job. Just like Mikel Arteta, you're going to go through phases where it looks incredibly good, but then there'll be phases where he's worked out tactically by other coaches. And you can see that Rafa had him on a stick in that last game. And well, he didn't help himself by benching Ronaldo. And the other thing about Ronaldo is, and this will probably be the final point from me, is if you make Ronaldo disgruntled, the rest of the team looks up to him. You create a mutiny all by yourself. Similar to the Mourinho-esque mutiny, where everyone was like, we're tired of just kicking the ball up to Son and Kane, even though that was the best idea. Or even when all the other United players wanted Mourinho out. And so he just needs to be a little bit careful, because there's no trophies to fall back on and say, hey, we won. That's what's keeping guys like Arteta in their job. Whereas he's got an away goal, he's got an away record that nobody's ever done, but nobody ever talks about. So that's the one thing that he needs to be careful about. But we'll wait and see by the next international break to see what this looks like. I don't think they'll be too far behind, but United have a chance of falling way behind by November, the top teams. But the only problem is the top teams keep on beating each other. So you kind of find a situation like now where you've got Liverpool, Chelsea, and City all within 2 points of each other. And then everyone else is chasing them. They're 2 points away, and they're watching and sitting and waiting. So, it's a little bit frantic. But yeah, Dean, It's going to be what it is this weekend. So thank you very much, my man. We will chat again for the FPL show. We're going to do another FPL show that's going to come out later on as well this week, where Dean's going to tell me why he chose Jimenez instead of the South Korean sensation Huang. But we'll figure it out. Please do join us for that FPL show. Thank you very much. And besale, kakafis.